Imagine a station where you access information. Think of a station that creates awareness for national development. Imagine a station that prepares you for a bright and greater future. A station for all ages. Documentaries, classroom and television, events coverage, children's programs and variety shows. Always stay tuned to NTA Knowledge on the StarTimes platform, channel 359. For partnership, sponsorship and advert placements, contact us on NTA Knowledge. NTA Knowledge, learning to broaden horizon.
She cries. She cries in anguish and in pain. She bears the scourge of her grief. She toils in vain for justice and succumbs to silence. He gloats over his malady. Like a beast, he pounces with no remorse. Her cry means nothing. Her pain feeds her shame. Like an orphan, she's left to grieve in solitude. But no more will she cry in vain. Her adversaries will henceforth bear the brunt of their cruelty. Rape is evil. Rape is a plague, a pandemic of monumental consequences. We must unite and kick it out of our society.
Connect with NTA and stand against rape and rapists. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
From dusk to dawn, 24 hours a day, NTA International is with you in your living room, office, everywhere and anywhere. We provide the company you desire in terms of balanced and up-to-date news, programs and the best of entertainment. Tune in to DSTV channel 251, GoTV channel 91, Freeview UK channel 264, or you can download www.visiontv.co.uk. App for iOS or Android. You can also see us on Facebook and YouTube for quality content on the go. NTA International, Africa's window to the world.
Understanding the universal language and timeless qualities that every great art piece exudes is a quest for many. Art is a means of communication, a symbol of humanity, depicting aesthetics in various forms. Art connotes strength and visibility as a way of preserving heritage, promoting culture, and painting pictures of our daily realities. This young artist examines tales of the eyes, mind, and body through his works.
My work is more of the real life and of ordinary Nigerians, the women, the children. It's not a painful art, it's just their joys, their moments of doubt, their moments of sorrows too. I draw with raw charcoal on cloth. I just burn them and just make the charcoal.
A combination of brevity with comprehensive suggestiveness that appeals to one's sensibility. One cannot ignore the depth each art piece possesses. But how well do people appreciate and understand these artworks?
You can see they are about to cross the road. So I saw the painting that you look before you leap. The child at the mother's back is relaxed. That means she trusted the mother so much that she's capable of protecting her from any danger.
When I look at that painting or this one, it tells me something, and I'm able to understand the strength of a woman. And looking at this painting, I could easily relate with the average Nsukka woman. I'm from Nsukka. That's the strength of the Nsukka woman.
I like the media, charcoal work. I've used it before. And I like the way he's using it in his pictures to create definition, to show light and shadow. Yeah. So particularly I like this artwork because of the theme, showing independence, and because I like being an independent woman, and I believe every woman should be independent and they can be able to do anything that they desire to do.
One or two things that I'll pick here is that it teaches us about what what are we proposing in the narrative structures. Look at the woman in the there is showing that, okay, you can better yourself where you are, not necessarily when you move to cities. So people in the rural area, they too, if you are content with what you have.
Every art piece speaks to the soul, with its peculiar references to details, although we may sometimes get lost while trying to understand its central message, and this can only be related by the artist.
This is one of my favorite pieces. The piece is actually recent. I title the work "The Gaze." For some reason, something captures their attentions, and whatever they are looking at, it's not making them sad, it's not making them happy. Children actually look up to their parents to see whatever they are doing. And there's this saying that history repeats itself. And so I try to use this piece to show a girl, to show the world whom she is in the light of day. And I used it to apply to relationships between people, to apply to marriages. I see openness and transparency as one of the strong keys to a successful, cordial relationship.
Every artist has a unique approach and diversity to its interpretation. However, despite its broad approach to our daily realities, art appreciation and collection still poses a major challenge in this part of the world.
Promoting art in primary schools especially, we try to encourage children from the beginning, the primary schools, the importance of arts. They will understand that it's also a profession that somebody can easily really enjoy and, express themselves through.
I think art gives a lot of story about a country or people or a nation, and we should always preserve artwork. Because it will be used in future generations to tell a story of the past.
We don't really blame those that don't appreciate art. You have to have conquered, food as a problem to be able to appreciate things like luxurious things. Most of us, we live a life of survival. It starts from building ourselves as a nation first before we can actually appreciate art.
Art is no doubt a benchmark for nation building, a great assurance to sustainable growth, especially with the strings of creative expressions all around the country. If only we can look within and let every art piece we set our eyes on speak to our minds and body, then art appreciation will become more valuable.
NTA News. When the news breaks, we mend it and present it without blemish. NTA News, authentic and authoritative.
Aquaculture as a world emergent industry and one of the fastest growing food production subsector in the world. And due to the apparently declining global fish catch,
Ahead of African Union elections, ECOWAS heads of state and government concede AU Commissioner for Peace and Security to Nigeria.
Federal government moves to avert strike by non-teaching staff of universities.
they ask that they take back some of these our agreements to their members and then come back to us for further discussions.
Ministry of Education flags off implementation funds for education in 3 emergency states.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss the latest Transparency International report on Nigeria, plus COVID-19 and non-cooperating states.
All right, we do apologize for starting off today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria a bit behind schedule. It was due to unforeseen technical difficulties. Well, we're here, so let's go. The release of Corruption Perception Index 2020 by Transparency International on the 28th of January 2021 continued to generate reactions by various stakeholders.
Now, the report shows that Nigeria recorded a decline in the fight against corruption as the country scored 25 out of 100 points, falling back by 1 point compared to 2019.
And according to the index, the report does not show specific incidents of corruption, but it is an indication of the perception of Nigerian public about the state of corruption in the country.
Now, reacting to the report, the presidency accused Transparency International of releasing what it called sensational and baseless rating on Nigeria and the fight against corruption, pointing out that the report was not an accurate portrayal of the prevailing reality.
In a statement signed by Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu said the Buhari administration deserves credit for diminishing corruption in the public service and will continue to vigorously support prevention, enforcement, public enlightenment, and the education activities of anti-corruption agencies.
Now, the presidency questioned the modalities for data gathering for the report and asked Transparency International to avoid sensationalism and not to base its findings on media reports alone.
So what is Nigerian government going to do about the report going forward? How would this kind of inaccurate reporting be prevented in the future? What reforms should be instituted to further enhance Nigeria's fight against corruption? This is Good Morning Nigeria and the midweek edition. I am Kyrian Umayo. Thanks for joining us.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I joined my colleague Kyrian to also welcome you to the program, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, today's package is in 2 parts. The second leg of the conversation will focus on COVID-19 and non-cooperating states as the second wave of the coronavirus rages. One big question is, why are some states not willing to cooperate with the federal government in its efforts to stem the tide of COVID-19, but are rather more interested in taking coronavirus intervention funds?
You know, what are they going to do with the funds? You know, I mean,
big question there, Kieran.
Since you're not cooperating and you are looking for the funds, one wonders what that is all about. It's really unbelievable, you know. Well, as usual, we'll have our complimentary segments, including the newspaper review, business news, and others. Let's now join Musbao Dan Wahab for the Good Morning News. Hello, Musbao.
All right, good morning, Kyrian and Kisley. I believe your guests will provide probably perspective to why state governments would take money without believing in coronavirus. Now, let's take the news ahead of African Union elections scheduled to take place during the 58th Summit in Addis Ababa. Heads of state and governments of ECOWAS community have jointly considered the position of AU Commissioner for Peace and Security to Nigeria. Similarly, on the request of President Muhammadu Buhari, the next chair of ECOWAS has been allocated to Senegal among 2 other contending countries. Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo represented the president at a virtual extraordinary meeting chaired by ECOWAS chairman and Ghana President Nana Akufo-Addo. Both Minister of Foreign Affairs Geoffrey Onyema and the Minister of State Ambassador Zubairu Dada spoke to State House correspondent Jide Onifade after the meeting.
Should have 2 candidates, right? But one must be male and one must be female. So the whole slate has been cleared just for Nigeria.
We must appreciate what it is that we have, because others do appreciate that we have so much to offer.
Leadership problems, perhaps the most cited reason for underdevelopment in Africa, was revisited at the National Defense College Course 29 lecture series. President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, drew the attention of leaders in Nigeria, especially the participants, to the need for national peace and unity through strategic leadership.
That as a country, Nigeria is heterogeneous. And as leaders, we must ensure that we weave the diversity into our strength, that we are able to create and sustain unity.
The federal government has moved a step further to avert another round of strike in the nation's university system. A reconciliatory meeting between government and universities' non-teaching staff, both parties agreed to set up a joint committee to look at the contentious issues of discrepancies in payments of earned allowances and issues relating to IPPIS implementation.
Take back some of these our agreements to their members and then come back to us for further discussions.
Clearly, the program or the agenda of the meeting has not been exhausted. So there are still issues to be addressed.
The Interministerial Committee on the Disposal of Forfeited Assets has commenced the inspection and valuation of properties as a first step to their disposal. Led by the Solicitor General of the Federation, Dayo Akpata, was the chairman of the committee. The assets being assessed are located across the country.
The committee intends to engage valuers and auctioneers as part of the process in the disposal of assets forfeited to the federal government. And the list of assets will be published accordingly.
Basking in the euphoria of a slight but significant reduction in the number of out-of-school children in the country, Federal Ministry of Education says it is not relenting in its quest to further slash the alarming figure. To further support this cause, $20 million accelerated funding has been granted by Global Partnership for Education, which the Minister of Education, Adamu, officially flagged off its implementation for the 3 northeast states of Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa.
Of out-of-school children, establish robust teaching preparations, teachers' professional development and their recruitment systems, and also address protection issues.
The federal government decided to provide critical infrastructure in broader communities across the country has begun to manifest. This follows the inauguration of power supply project in a community of Ipokia local government area of Ogun State by the Broader Communities Development Agency.
Our being here is to not only commission this project, but identify other needs of the community going forward.
We are all happy to receive him, and we know he will do more for us because he has seen more of items we needed.
Now, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has confirmed 1,634 new cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria. In the latest figures, Lagos is still leading with 440 new cases, followed by Anambra with 160. FCT has 158, Rivers 134, Abia 103, Oyo 90, Enugu 81, Osun 73, Gombe 54, Kwara 50, Ogun and Plateau states have 32 new cases respectively. Akwa Ibom recorded 31 new cases. Other states are Ondo with 24, Borno and Delta states recorded 23 new cases each. Ebonyi and Taraba have 21 each. Bayelsa 16, Kaduna has 15, Nasarawa 13, Jigawa 12, Bauchi and Kano have 11 new infections each. Zamfara has 4, while Sokoto got 2 new cases. Nigeria now has 133,552 confirmed cases, with 107,551 treated and discharged patients, while 101,613 deaths are on record so far. And that concludes the morning news. Good morning, Nigeria. We'll continue with Kingsley and Kirian. After this break, a big question on the table.
My dear party members, there comes a time when all good people must not only speak, but rise up and get involved in the task of improving their society. The need has never been greater than now for all Nigerians to actively contribute to the all-important task of nation building by bringing about good leadership and governance. For most citizens, their greatest weapon is their vote. Register now for your party and register when the time comes for elections. Political parties are the main vehicles under our laws through which citizens can participate in the ideals and practices of our democracy. As we have seen happening around the world, good citizens join political parties and use them to bring about the changes they desire. I am therefore endorsing the nationwide membership registration and the revalidation exercise embarked upon by our party, the All Progressive Congress. I call on patriotic Nigerians to come out during the exercise, which starts on the 26th of January, and avail themselves of the opportunity to join the APC. Thank you, and may God bless our country.
Dear customer, link your Airtel number to your national identification number today. Here are easy ways you can do it. Dial *121*1# on your Airtel line and follow the prompts on the screen. Type in your 11-digit government-approved NIN number. You will receive a confirmation message to confirm your entry. You can also visit www.airtel.com.ng/NIN to link your phone number to your NIN. If you do not know your NIN, simply dial *346# to get it. No stress, no wahala.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Shola, come and help me. You need to learn.
But I'm more interested in drawing.
How are you going to be part of the business if you don't learn?
You just don't understand.
Morning. Anyone for some Lipton?
The rich taste of Lipton awakens body and mind.
Let me have a look at your drawings. Son, these designs are amazing.
Lipton Yellow Label Tea. Awaken to what really matters.
I bring you wonderful news. The village headmaster is coming back to your screen. Mo wire abi mi o wire.
Teacher yo mo, a fẹ́ lọ wá nǹkan jẹ. Teacher yo mo, a fẹ́ lọ wá nǹkan jẹ. Ọmọ onírẹsì ti dé.
Ajebo na better school for last gidi. Not be all this on a rugged yes school for Ijabi. I don't know for you.
Second, it's called Oja Village. Kadesi, we no happy at all.
And I know that even you too, you are getting a lot of orders. Hey, we are trying, Shao. Sweep her leg out. She was standing there. Sweep it.
I love you so much.
And how did I give you the impression that I was interested in that position?
50-year anniversary.
You mean anniversary?
I mean, it's not I talk with that now.
Not for me. Not for me because of Pamio.
Arsenal will seek revenge against Aston Villa after their loss to their opponents at the Emirates Stadium last time out. Will they succeed, or will Villa do the double over the Gunners this season? Find out this Saturday when Aston Villa welcome Arsenal to Villa Park on the Premier League Live, showing on the NTA network from 1 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Axis Bank, Babai Jebu, Lipton, and Close Up, in association with Goal.com.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. It's time for business news. All right, we are skipping the business news and going ahead for our newspaper review.
All right, and here we have the reviewer, Bayo Atoyebi. Bayo, it's good to see you again today.
Thank you, Kirian. Good morning. Good morning, Kinsley. Good morning, Nigeria.
Right, Bayo. Lovely having you around. Okay, let's take a look at the window page of the Nation newspaper. And we have composite photographs there on the front page. And, of course, a number of other stories. Let's begin above the name flag. 56.2 million NIN linked to SIMs. 56.2 million NIN linked to SIMs. Deadline now April 6th. Details on page 28. Bandits kill 21, abduct 40 in Niger State. 3 gunned down in Kaduna. Speakers, governors, IBB, and ministers mourn Momo. That's the late Prince Tony Momo. President orders IG Adamu to hand over. That's on page 28. And then below the nameplate, NIMET predicts food shortage this year. NIMET predicts food shortage this year. Okay, so they are now forecasting our food security situation. Yes. I thought they were more concerned with weather. Yes. Although there's weather impact on our food production capacity and capabilities. Government and varsity workers talks collapse. That's page 28. $36.4 billion foreign reserves keep Naira stable. And COVID-19 situations, that's the a sidebar you have there. The details are inside the paper at pages 4 and 5. But it says 80% of cases in Lagos, FCT, Plateau, and Kaduna. Kogi government kicks against PTF's high-risk tag. PTF debunks vaccine to kill Africans claim. Emirates, why we impose restrictions on Nigerians. And the photographs there on the front page show the entrance to the Wuswe Modern Market at the Federal Capital Territory. It was closed following the order by the mobile court on account of the flagrant disregard of the coronavirus health protection regulations of 2021. Some of the stranded traders outside the market yesterday. This story says, protect law-abiding herders. North herders charge Buhari. Panic in Kwara over herders relocation. Police and traditional rulers parley. And right at the foot of the front page, federal government secures $20 million to reduce out-of-school kids in Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe. Page 27. Kirian.
All right, now let's go to the Punch newspaper. Above the name flag, now telcos collect 56.18 million names. That's a NIN. Federal government fixes April deadline. Page 21 is where you find that on the Punch newspaper. Then 17 million Nigerians to be vaccinated by 2022. That's according to FireMe. It's on page 2. Then IG welcomes Buhari from Katsina amidst handover rumor. It's on page 32. Now, poor Nigerians will increase by 15 million soon, according to World Bank. It's on page 21. Now, the lead story on Punch newspaper this morning: panic in NYSC headquarters camps as resident officer dies of COVID-19. And there are about 4 writers to that story. He contracted COVID-19, referred to NCDC, died outside the camp. That's according to NYSC. No infections in camps, according to spokesman. Workers accuse scheme of hiding case. Now, we tested everybody, including resource persons and market operators, according to the scheme. All right. Now, the photo story on the Punch newspaper is, of course, the entrance of UTC shopping complex here in Gariki, Abuja. Of course, we learned that it was shut down yesterday by the mobile court of FCT here, of course, for not complying with COVID-19. You know, that's a very busy complex, actually, you know, where you have certain businesses going on. But then it's been shut down. Below that, we have how I discovered 3 children with my ex-wife aren't mine. How I discovered 3 children with my ex-wife aren't mine. That's according to George. It's on page 32. Kogi fumes over COVID-19 travel warning. Alleges NCDC scaring investors. That's on page 31. Of course, if we're talking about non-compliant states, of course, Kogi is number 1. I am not surprised by my removal. Sacked Borno Commissioner. It's on page 27. Abuja or your 4 states to witness shorter farming season, according to NIMET. It's on page 28. Now, Niger late governor's son sues mom over dad's property. Niger late governor's son sues mom over dad's property. That's on page 5. Bloodbath as 29 killed, 40 abducted in Niger, Sokoto, and Kaduna states. Kidnappers are on the rampage now. The stories are on pages 27 and 32 of the Punch newspaper. Let's bring in Bayo now.
Thank you, Kirian. Let's start with the report from The Nation, which Kingsley read earlier on, and was talking about food scarcity in the year. Actually, that report is predicated on the seasonal climate prediction that was announced by the Minister of Aviation yesterday. And it was saying that 6 northern states could come under severe dry spells between June and July. And accordingly, farmers are advised to adopt soil moisturing conservation technologies to reduce chances of crop failure. And that is what the nation has inferred to as food scarcity. Minister of Aviation, Adi Sirika, identified Sokoto, Kebbi, Zamfara, as well as Katsina, Yobe, and Borno as states that are likely to be affected. The forecast also by the Nigerian Meteorological Agency also indicated that above normal rainfall will also lead to isolated flash floods in the naturally flood-prone areas of the country. Onset of plantation, farmers are advised to start growing season to be as early as 1st March in the coastal area and latest as at June 29th in northern parts of the country. On cessation of rains, it is expected that rains will start ceasing by October 9th around Katsina and Sokoto, while latest cessation around the Niger Delta area will be by Christmas. So, to be forewarned, they say, is to be forearmed. Our farmers should take this advice seriously so that they don't plant early and their crops will not suffer dry spells and they will lose their crops. Meanwhile, the federal government has extended the registration of national identification number to SIM by 8 weeks. It is now to end by April 6. The Minister of Communication and Digital Economy says the extension is to enable Nigerians and legal residents to complete the process. As at January 18th, we had 47.8 million that have been registered. Between that time and now, there has been an increase of about 8.38 million registrants. So we now have 56.18 persons that have registered their names so far. And the survey of the registration indicate that an average Nigerian has between 3 to 4 SIMs. Meanwhile, the National Identity Management Council has increased its registration points to 1,060, while mobile networks also have increased their numbers to ensure that persons are able to register their SIMs. There are concerns about security across the nation, and Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State says that the state has turned the heat on kidnappers and criminals in the Barapa and Okiogo area of the state. On a visit to the area, he said, "We will get the criminals to account for their heinous act against the state." He enjoined residents of the state not to stigmatize any particular ethnic group, but search out for kidnappers, bandits, rapists, hoodlums, and armed robbers. He said government has set up a peace and security committee at the local government level, and they are being challenged to set up intelligence gathering to help it. Across to Ondo State, Governor Rotimi Akeredolu is lamenting that most of the crimes that are being perpetrated by foreigners who have come into the country across the land borders. He was making this lamentation to the coordinator of the Nigerian immigration who paid him a courtesy call in Akure. He says that a number of people who come into Nigeria through land borders are alarming, and the peace in Ondo and all over the country is being ravaged by foreigners who have come into the country. Alhaji Bashir Tofa has also warned that those stoking ethnic tension across the country should desist to avoid serious crisis. The one-time presidential candidate of NRC said that there has been tension in the country since an ultimatum was issued to headers to vacate Southwest over rising insecurity. He called on the federal government to address the situation before it spirals out of control. He called on the presidency to end insecurity, what he's described as tribal lynching. Especially, he says, our enemies from within and outside, some are well known by our securities and are more determined to set us one against the other. Talking about COVID-19, as at yesterday, Lagos had recorded no cases at all. Today, we have 1,634, and Lagos is leading the pack with as much as 440 cases. Anambra, FCT, Rivers, and Abia have numbers in the hundreds, and 18 other states have double digits. 2 states have single digits. Total so far is 133,552. We have 24,388 in care. So the panacea is sticking strictly to non-pharmaceutical measures. Exactly. Wearing masks. I'm glad that you referred to the Wuse Market and the UTC that was closed. Security agents are there to enforce the closure. However, the marketers have also pleaded and regretted their non-compliance. They are pleading for leniency, and they pledge to wear their mask. But meanwhile, the closure is going on until...
All right, but it's not a matter of regretting their actions. They had been recklessly careless about preventive measures against the coronavirus. All through last year, we were saying it on Good Morning Nigeria that if you went to the marketplaces, you would find that most of those who were trading and even buying, they didn't have any mask on. And if you wore one, you looked like a stranger in their midst. If you even brought out your hand sanitizer to use, they will be looking to see what that was. So it was as if coronavirus doesn't affect them, that the government was merely seeking to disturb human beings, who were going about their normal business. Now they have seen how serious it is.
Well, we just hope it does not escalate to a point where we begin to see the devastating effect of not, adhering to the protocol set by NCDC. So on that note, we close this conversation, of course, on newspaper review. Bayo, would like to appreciate you once more.
Thank you very much
for being here this morning. We're going to see you again tomorrow. for full analysis, of course, on issues raised by national dailies. This is Good Morning Nigeria and the network service of the NTA. Thanks for staying with us up to this moment. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll of course be dealing with the major issue on our hands this morning.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
In my house, we may look alike, but we are very different individuals. My adorable twins, they look so alike, but they don't like wearing the same things. And my little man, I had to find out the hard way because I've been trying to teach him my way. He loves to learn his own way because doing things his way is more fulfilling. Everybody believes their way is best. That's why Golden Penny Pasta is our favorite meal because due to its non-stickiness, it allows me to satisfy everybody just the way they want it.
Golden Penny Pasta, made with durum wheat, is tasty, nutritious, a source of protein and fiber, and non-sticky. So you can cook, serve, and eat your pasta just the way you like it. Go on and enjoy your Golden Penny Pasta the way you want it. With Golden Penny Pasta, your way is best.
Nigerian youths are about the greatest assets the country has at the moment. It is therefore not surprising that the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari is strategically responding to the yearnings of the youth through multiple projects and programs. Youth Entrepreneurship Support Years by Bank of Industry, the Youth Investment Fund by the CBN, and several other conditional cash transfer programs. Recruitment of 774,000 social workers, majority of whom are youths, and so many other projects that are beneficial to youths directly or indirectly. If the administration can do all this, definitely with a degree of patience and time, it can achieve more. Nigerian youths must come together to say no to terrorism, no to vandalism, and no to all disruptive tendencies. Hashtag Youth for Greater Nigeria, pacifying the youths, unifying the nation.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous. Whether you do it for fun or for political gains, real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
will seek revenge against Aston Villa after their loss to their opponents at the Emirates Stadium last time out. Will they succeed, or will Villa do the double over the Gunners this season? Find out this Saturday when Aston Villa welcome Arsenal to Villa Park on the Premier League Live, showing on the NTA network from 1 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Axis Bank, Babai Jebu, Lipton, and Close Up, in association with Goal.com.
It's Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, since the release of the 2020 Transparency International Corruption Perception Index on Nigeria, Nigerians have been reacting to the report, which has also been described by the federal government as not a true reflection of the state of affairs of the war against corruption in the country. Joining us now in the studios to discuss this issue in further detail, we'd like to welcome the Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed. Honorable Minister, pleasure to have you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Kingsley, thank you.
Yes, you're most welcome.
Thank you, and thanks.
Now,
good morning.
Let's begin this way, Kingsley. Let's get from the Minister, his reaction to the Transparency International Corruption Perception Index 2020.
Yes, I think I issued a statement a few days ago in which I reiterated the fact that the low rating by the Transparency International Corruption Perception Index 2020 does not accurately reflect the strides the government has been making in its fight against corruption. I further say that the truth of the matter is that since the government received its the ITI 2019 report, the government had embarked on corruption preventive measures, and also building of integrity systems, and that the fight against corruption remains on course. Now, yes, it is true that by the rating that was released, it will appear as if Nigeria's fight against corruption has derailed, but far from it. Because what we found out from the report of TI in 2019 was that most of the indices that needed to be addressed were largely in the area of the ease of doing business and the general public service delivery systems. We realized that over 40% of the scoring was actually based on the ease of doing business and general service deliveries. And that is why the PEBEC, which is the Presidential Ease of Doing Business Council, actually embarked on many reforms, especially at our ports. Now, many of these reforms we have embarked upon will begin to record, successes and show in the next couple of months. But it is important to understand that what the government has done is actually to put emphasis more on preventing corruption and building integrity systems. So it takes quite some time before you see the effect. And in addition to all this, even you can see that even the prosecution of high profile suspects is still going on. And when you look further, despite the pandemic, the federal government has not rested on its oars in its effort to fight, corruption. You recall that recently the ICPC actually launched this national ethics policy, which is actually aimed at national moral reorientation. And also the Code of Conduct Bureau also recently launched its own program to energize, the conduct and the conduct of public officers. These are things that have been going on very, very, gradually. And we also published the, national ports, the national ports program action, which has put in place the kind of reforms we want to put in our ports. Because you see, once we're able to address the issues that have to do with how easy is it for me to go to the ports to clear my goods, how easy is it for me to register my company at the CAC, then this is then that you begin to really address the issues of fighting corruption. Of course, we are studying the report because we found and we're interrogating some discrepancies and some indices. For instance, we noticed that we've remained stagnant for the last 10 years on some indices. And that is a bit worrisome because given, when you say variables, it means they vary. When you look at the structure of government, the scope, it's either you move forward or you fluctuate or you decline. But we notice that some of these indices have remained the same, and we are interrogating why. We're also working very hard to improve on our data collection and data retrieval, because this also would help in giving a correct picture of what we'll be doing in the area of areas of fighting corruption. We're also concerned that we've received various assessments from various international and even local anti-corruption agencies, and sometimes you find out that while you are scored high by one agency on one particular index, you are scored low by another agency. So these are issues that we are addressing. But I'm very confident that I'm optimistic that if we continue with these reforms and we refuse to be distracted, we would do much better in the next couple of months.
What are the issues on which Nigeria was scored low in the latest report?
It's largely in the area of ease of doing business, largely, and then also government bureaucracy.
Yeah, what are the specific issues about government bureaucracy? Because they keep talking about the fact that business, yes, the reforms that you've talked about and the reforms that we all see, they're there, but that there are still obstacles in getting business done smoothly without the typical quid pro quo that you would find in some of the environments. And then there is also the issue with regard to procurement. I think that's one of the sore points. As the government interrogated this to be sure that indeed what TI is drawing attention to isn't the reality or that they are crying wolf.
No, you see, like I said, 40% of the scoring indices is actually around the area of, ease of doing business. That is why we have, the PEBEC has been working very hard on port reforms. It's working very hard on the issue of, company registration and how you can get permits and, grants that will help you in the area of doing business, doing business. So if you look at the efforts of PEBEC in the last couple of years, 2 years, it is actually aimed at easing the bottlenecks in various areas, at the ports, customs, at the airports, and I think we are making a lot of progress.
Now, I think there's this other area, Kingsley, TI is also advocating, serious evidence-based anti-corruption reforms in the police and other security agencies, including the military, right? Because they must have carried out some research at some level, to be able to come up with their findings. And they pointed to the fact that the issue of the police, the military, vis-a-vis the fight against Boko Haram and other security issues across the country.
You see, especially when you start talking about, the issue of the military, the issue of fighting Boko Haram, I think we must appreciate one thing. When we are fighting an insurgency, the rules of engagement are not the same for you as they are for the insurgents. And you are fighting what you call an asymmetrical, war. Now, you are fighting not just the insurgents. You are at the same time trying to ensure that you keep to the internationally accepted rules of engagement. So in balancing both, it often comes out that the military is on the receiving end on both sides. But so far, I can assure you that our military is doing very well in being faithful to the rules of engagement, and their internal mechanisms for addressing excesses on the part of some erring soldiers. And I think we often hear of, court martials, we often hear of, very senior officers in the military being, disciplined either by, they lose their, by loss of ranks, or even sometimes by dismissal. I think what we need to do is we need to probably report more of this kind of activities. And that's why I said that we need to work more on our data keeping and retrieval, so that there will be no underreporting on the efforts that we have been making, internally. It's because if these facts do not get to the rating agencies, they will not know how much we have done. Look at the issue of the police. There have been a lot of reforms also going on within the police. Internally, I think we need to report this more so that the agencies, the rating agencies, will get to know what we've been doing.
I'm just wondering, does the government have any issues with the methodology adopted by, say, Transparency International in framing its perception index?
You see, like I explained to you, for instance, I said we're interrogating certain indices used by the agency. For instance, we noticed that on some indices, we've remained stagnant in the last 10 years, which is not possible, given that the population has increased, given that the size of government has increased, given that structures of government has increased. So we're even worried that I hope they're just not, transposing automatically what has happened in the previous years. But that could happen if there's no sufficient information on our own part too. This is why I still go back to the issue of looking at improving on our own data gathering and also retrieval, and overcome this under-reporting of the various efforts that the government is taking in fighting corruption. But I think our adoption of the corruption preventive system and building integrity system, I think, is the best. Because what the ICPC has launched is a national ethics policy, a moral orientation, and they are starting from the schools. And the Code of Conduct Bureau also is facing the issue of how to re-energize and how to address the issue of the conduct of officers in public service. while the PEBEC, the Presidential Enabling Business Council, is looking at how to bring reforms in the area of, ease of doing business. And when you do all this, then you see that, the future of the fight against corruption is very bright.
Kirian, I just want Honorable Minister to also respond to this. Actually, what we are dealing with here, usually with the Transparency International report, is a matter of perception.
Exactly.
But there's also the mirror of perception and reality. That sometimes perception that can mirror reality 80%, 75%, or 90%. Let's take a look at some of the critical areas that sometimes Nigerians themselves perceive that apparently not much has been done. You've spoken about the ease of doing business, and I'm sure anyone who has been operating in this environment would acknowledge that a great deal has been done in easing the obstacles that we used to have with regard to doing business. Well, let's take two critical agencies. This happened, for instance, in 2020. The police and the reforms. Yes, the police have been undergoing reforms, but how would you then contextualize the various revelations that have come out since the NSAS protest? That is one. Two, on Good Morning Nigeria on Monday, that's 2 days ago, we were discussing the resurgence of foreign rice in our markets. You have been a guest with us on Good Morning Nigeria, where you have extolled the fact that Nigeria had attained, almost as it were, self-sufficiency in rice production. And here we are, as soon as the borders have been reopened, now you are seeing rice all over the place. And the question people are asking is, who is in charge of policing our borders, of ensuring that contraband doesn't get into the market? So, do these things not frame the perception of persons to say, look, if foreign rice comes in, of course, we had the customs PRO was our guest on that program. If bail remains for sale largely amongst the police, if the brutality that was meted out by the now disbanded SARS was so widespread, according to the reports, then persons will say some of the reforms are not working. Ease of doing business, fantastic grading, no question about that. But for these other ones, what would be your reaction, Honorable Minister?
You see, my reaction to the issue of the revelations that have been coming up in respect of, especially at the Lagos panel of inquiry into the police brutality, actually supports the position of government that we are ready for reforms. We are open, we are transparent. It's because we want to correct the ills of the past. That is why we even allow these testimonies to be kept live for everybody to see it. It's a measure of the confidence that we have in our commitment to eradicate all forms of police brutality, all forms of, human rights abuse. That the federal government set up these panels of inquiry in every state of the federation. Actually directed all,
states,
governors to do so. And this is why we are very surprised that Amnesty International, a few days ago, will come out and say the federal government is trying to cover up the death at the toll gate. And we challenge them. If Amnesty International has any proof of any brutality or any killings at the toll gate, they should please go to the third panel of inquiry, submit the names and addresses with concrete evidence that they were shot at the toll gate. Because, like I said earlier, I said the Amnesty International is becoming not just an irritant, but it's becoming a vehicle of disinformation. And it seems that they have a purpose, which is to destabilize Nigeria. Otherwise, why would they be outguessing the outcome of the panel? They've turned themselves into a panel of inquiry themselves, and they are making conclusions. Now, you see, and so that is my position on the issue of whatever revelation is coming out from the inquiry. It's because we are determined that we want this thing to be arrested, we want to examine them, we want to interrogate them. That is why we are making it public. Now, the issue of the rice thing, you see, it's a very interesting issue, very delicate. Why? When we closed our borders, because there was hues and cry, and I remember I was here, and I said that one of the major benefits of the border closure was to ensure that we have food security and food sufficiency, especially in rice, grains, and the like. That in addition, it will help us to curb the proliferation of small arms, which has fueled kidnapping and insurgency. But of course, against these two, you have to balance other larger and bigger interests. I think it's about time we start looking at the issue of our borders, smuggling, from a different perspective. And I think this is what the government is trying to do now, which is, you see, Kingsley, if you build your mansion in a slum, poor people will come there to steal your food. Hungry people will come there to disturb you. Now, you look at the situation of Nigeria today.
I hope you give me land in an upscale area so I won't build a mansion.
Thank you. You see what I'm looking at is that we have countries like the Benin Republic. We have countries like Niger. Niger is landlocked, so it's probably Burkina Faso. Then we have the Republic of Benin. The Republic of Benin makes its money from the ports. So here in Nigeria, we say rice is banned. Or you want to bring in foreign rice, you pay 70% duty. The Republic says pay 10%. Now, we can't force Benin Republic to ban importation of rice. How can we ask Benin Republic to charge the same tariff as we charge? And that is why we do engage some of these countries bilaterally and on an original basis. Now, you will notice that there's no problem between Canada and the US in their borders because both countries are prosperous. But it's the same thing. But look at the US and Mexico. So what I'm saying that as long as you have a prosperous country, and Nigeria by all means is prosperous in terms of our potentials, in terms of our population, in terms of our resources, we are going to have this problem where smaller nations would would embark on policies that would be inimical to the interests of Nigeria. So we are working out on a long term an arrangement whereby, for instance, if it's possible, for instance, we could go to the Republic and say, look, we'll give you $100 million a year. Stop, don't allow rice to come into Benin Republic. I mean this is hypothetical. Now, what would that achieve? What the Republic will say, wait a minute. After all, the only reason why I allow rice to come is because I charge duty on them. So I calculate the duty I charge on rice in a year. It might not be up to 100, it might be more than $100 billion. But I look at the benefit I will get from Nigeria in other areas. So these are areas that we are looking at and working at. But it's complex and it's not unique to Nigeria. Anytime you have a rich nation has a boundary with poorer nations, you will see people running away from the poor nation to go to the rich nation. And that's why you see all this migration. It's always from the poor country to the rich country.
Yeah, Honorable Minister, that's fine. You know, the point actually has to do with the role of government agencies, ultimately, and the perception of the role of those government agencies.
Kingsley, you see, Kingsley, we would not be being practicable. We have a very large border. Even, look, what prompted Trump, the former President Trump, said I was going to build a wall. That was prompted him. You see, that's what I'm looking. Don't look at the conventional solutions. Look at something that is a bit, you know, radical solution. Look, unless you know the cause of a disease, you cannot cure it. And this is what I've just told you now, is that the problem we have in Nigeria is that because of our population, because of our purchasing power, people will take risks to smuggle rice into Nigeria. Smaller countries like Benin, like I said, would look at it and say, we don't have petroleum, we don't have oil, we don't have anything. We only make our money from the post. We don't care whether Nigeria wants rice band or not. We don't care whether Nigeria wants to, its local farmers to prosper. We need money. So we would say you can bring in rice at 10%. So if you know you can bring rice in at 10% to Benin Republic, and Nigeria will charge either 70 or 80, you look at the logistics of it, the businessmen on both sides, well, we take the risk. So that's why I said, let's look at a more radical approach to this, rather than the issue of, our customs is this. There's nowhere in the world that you don't have challenges at your boundary, as long as it's a boundary between a poor country and the poorer one. And that's why I use the example of Canada and Mexico, and Canada and the US. And after the example also of migration.
All right, thank you, Honorable Minister. I think this was actually, talking about the capacity of our agencies, who are responsible for curbing, the menace of smuggling, on our borders. Because if you look at the speed, by which this foreign rice, came in, almost how many months after we had the ban, we have unbanned, border closure. It came in quite it's like a big show. Right, so that's it. But anyway, let me take you back. Kiran,
you see, until and when you start doing things differently, you continue to get the same result. Okay. Why are we talking about introducing technology? Why is into even our borders? Because we understand that the issue is enormous. And that's why I said, let's try to look at what the real problem is. You see, as far as the Republic is concerned, they don't want to hurt Nigeria deliberately, but they want to survive. So that is an area I think we should start looking at, rather than concentrate on the issues. Look, it's not. We didn't ask for the size of the Nigeria we have today, or the kind of borders we have, or the length that we have.
Let's now hope that in future that Nigeria may now, scale up on the issue of having the adequate technology to be able to man.
It's more than technology, Kiran.
Yeah, I just want to, Honorable Minister.
It's more than technology. You see, honestly, I just told you this. Let me tell you. I will go and get a piece of land for Kingsley, as he said. But you can imagine if you build a mansion in a place where you are the only one, you have electricity, the only one that you have water, the only one that has elevation. Every other people around you will come to your house to come out. If they are going to watch it through the window. Let's start thinking differently. Thank you.
All right, I want to take you on this. Sorry, I want to take you on this issue of COVID-19 because the chair of Transparency International actually was quoted to have said that COVID-19 is not just a health and economic crisis matter, but also corruption crisis. Corruption crisis. Perhaps what he's trying to say is that there's also corruption going on with respect to the fight against COVID-19. We have palliatives here and there, and some persons will also argue that such palliatives did not go to the right direction, that some persons have also been cutting corners with palliatives in terms of materials and in terms of cash, which of course I know government made provision, for extra money, to some agencies and organizations who are in the fight against, COVID-19. The TI is saying that some of these monies were not properly directed.
Well, that's an allegation. And frankly speaking, when it comes to COVID-19, I'm more worried about the huge disregard by Nigerians for the PTF COVID-19 protocols. I'm more worried by the spike in cases and the mortality rates. I'm more concerned about the scramble for vaccines. I'm more concerned about the hesitancy among people for the vaccine. I'm much more concerned about the fact that we are dealing with an existential issue. And this is, I think, where we should focus our attention. Let the anti-corruption agencies, let them look into areas of infraction or corruption or or misappropriation of funds in that area. But what Nigerians should address today is the fact that I think it's WHO, United Nations, said that 90% of all available vaccines today have been cornered by just 10 countries in the world. This is what should worry us. That Africa, with a population of about 1.3 billion people, we have only been able to secure 270 million doses of vaccine through HAVAT, through the AU. But Nigeria today, with a population of over 200 million, so far we'll be able to secure from COVAX 20% of our population is about 41 million doses. And then through HAVAT, we hope we get about another 42 million. So even in the next 2 years, with the best of luck, we'll only be able to vaccinate about 70% of our population. Now, as we speak today, we're expecting about 16 million doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca by February. Now, we are working very hard to ensure that the infrastructure is in place. And then we're hoping that we'll be able to tap on our experience, through the polio and other things, using the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency to ensure that this will be administered, properly. But if you know the cost to government today, COVID-19 is enormous. And you all know that workers under level 12 are either working from home or not coming to work, yet they are being paid. Most industries have, closed up or working at, skeleton. So,
yeah.
really...
Honorable Minister,
yes.
I'm sorry to jump in here because we have two topics today. The second one, of course, is on coronavirus.
Right.
But still on the Transparency International report, which is the main reason why we have you. Well, as Minister of Information and Culture, you are Nigeria's Chief Public Relations Officer. You are Nigeria's Chief Spokesperson. You have defended Nigeria's position. You have explained what Nigeria is seeking to do. I just want to ask, are you also seeking to defend probably what is happening at the subnational levels in terms of perception, the stories in local governments, the stories in some states, and even the stories concerning procurement, where, for instance, there appears to be no evidence of competitive bidding in a number of public sector transactions, say at the subnational level. Are these matters not ones that we can begin to also work on? Because businessmen who are gunning for business will say, look, we just saw the advert, when we got it, they said that it's a done deal. You can speak on behalf of the federal government, which you know very well, but as Nigeria as an entity, will you then also be making the same pitch of defense for the subnational entities, particularly local governments that have become virtually a challenge to all of us?
You see, Kingsley, it's like when you are taking a bath. You start with the head, and it cascades down. The anti-corruption, as well as the corruption prevention measures were put in place. The integrity systems were put in place will cascade down. I spoke to you about the ease of doing business. I spoke to you about what the ICPC is doing. I spoke to you about the fact that the national, ethics policy is even starting from primary schools and secondary schools. Now, that is going to have a holistic effect on the entire structure. Now, having said that, even at the PTF COVID-19 level, which I'm privileged to be a member, we engage with the Governors Forum, we engage with the National Economic Council on issues that have to do with how to ensure that the COVID-19 in terms of protocols, in terms of the distribution of materials are done in a manner that it will be equitable. Now, when you have a national orientation, it is going to go to every level. I would speak for what the federal government is doing to ensure that we have a country where corruption, if it cannot be eradicated, will be fought to a standstill. And I've told you also the efforts. You see, our emphasis today is not like before. We believe that emphasis should be on prevention, should be on building integrity systems, and we're engaging all the subnationals at this level.
Well, Mr. Thank you very much indeed, for your explanations. But I think that last question actually is quite huge, in the sense that the subnationals actually, under normal circumstances, it takes time for the federal government, policies to cascade down, to the subnationals. As governors, of course, are the kings of their states, and of course, as we speak, that many states don't have local government system as it were. What I have is just administrators, right? And of course, what goes on there, perhaps is not known either constitutionally or otherwise, right? But they've done so well, trying to explain themselves.
Kiran, it's not about Kiran. It's not about me trying to just give a sweet talk. Look, you remember, and I want to thank NTA for this. You still run our program, Change Begins With Me. This Change Begins With Me is one of the most powerful programs the government has, and I just hope that we can get more sponsors, because it talks to everybody. It talks to the driver. It talks to the mechanic. It talks to the clerk. You see, when you talk about corruption in Nigeria, it's not just in government. And this is why this, moral orientation, ethical orientation is very important, and we'll continue to drive it.
All right, Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, would like to thank you for being around. We do hope that some of the issues that we have discussed could also become matters for consideration when you have your National Council on Information. Often very useful in articulating these issues and ensuring that matters cascade down to the subnational levels. Alhaji Lai Mohammed, thanks a lot for being around.
Kinsley, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to be here.
All right. It's Good Morning Nigeria. We're live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We're taking a short break now. When we return, we'll be dealing with the spike in COVID-19 cases and the second wave and the lack of cooperation by a number of states, some of them claiming that the vaccine that is on the way is intended to kill Nigerians and Africans.
Although social media as a channel of communication is inherently harmless, it becomes harmful and damaging when used without discretion and thoughtfulness. Bad social media users spread rumors and fake news without verification. But good social media users stop, reflect, and verify information before sharing it. Be a good social media user. Stop the spread of fake news. Verify the authenticity of your source and use social media responsibly for a better Nigeria. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, in collaboration with the National Orientation Agency. The Council of Our Fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
A new edition of TV Guide is out with special focus on the game changer, His Excellency Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State. Broadcasting in a digital economy, Maxwell Logo gives an insight. This edition also features Nancy Naji of AIT, a name synonymous with business. Meet the NCDC boss, Dr. Chikwe Ihekweazu. TV Guide, your indispensable companion, also x-rays the relevance of social media in the modern society. Meet some TV professionals who have impacted their spaces and other inspiring stories in sports, entertainment, and lots more. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or NTA stations nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
Dialogue, empathy, love, and unity. These are vital components of nation building.
For all to be well, we appeal that we should refrain from volatile, provocative, inciting messages and language.
Let's build and not destroy.
Arsenal will seek revenge against Aston Villa after their loss to their opponents at the Emirates Stadium last time out. Will they succeed, or will Villa do the double over the Gunners this season? Find out this Saturday when Aston Villa welcome Arsenal to Villa Park on the Premier League Live, showing on the NTA network from 1 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Axis Bank, Babai Jebu, Lipton, and Close Up, in association with Gold.com.
Now, the spike in COVID-19 in the second wave of the infection has become a source of concern to federal government and other key players in the health sector. And hence, the executive order on the enforcement of safety protocols. Kunle Ade put together this report as a backgrounder for our next conversation.
President Muhammadu Buhari in the first quarter of 2020, while trying to curtail the spread of COVID-19, exercised the powers conferred on him by Sections 2, 3, and 4 of the Quarantine Act 2020, which declared COVID-19 as a dangerous infectious disease. The regulation also gave legal backing to various measures taken by the federal government to contain the spread of the virus. Subsequently, the President on January 27, 2021 signed the COVID-19 Health Protection Regulations 2021, an executive order which now makes the use of face mask mandatory. Chairman, Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 and Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, says regulation stipulates that there should be physical distancing at every public place and not more than 50 persons should stay in an enclosed place, while anyone without face mask would not be allowed in public places. Other components of the regulations include mandatory compliance with treatment protocols, penalties for defaulters which will attract a fine or 6 months in jail. This has remained a nationwide order, while state governments are enjoined to complement it.
The full cooperation of state governments will be critical with regard to supporting remuneration of vaccinators and smooth running of the operation.
We have states where data is not coming.
forth. If we don't test, your data will not be analyzed. If your data is not analyzed, we won't know the level of the epidemic in your state. Notable among the states that have not been reporting adequately include Yobe, Jigawa, Zamfara, and Kebbi State. And of course, Kogi State that has not been reporting at all.
The FCT Ministerial Task Force team has begun enforcement with some public facilities shut and some persons convicted. However, PTF declared some states as high risks in view of their nonchalant attitude to safety protocols. Why are states not cooperating with the federal government to fight COVID-19 but did not turn down the 1 billion naira COVID-19 fund? What should central government do to ensure that all states key into the safety protocols and enforce them in their various jurisdictions? Should there be another executive order to punish states who fail to comply with the provisions of Health Protection Regulations 2021? Answers to these questions and others shortly.
All right, thank you very much for the background. With us in the Abuja studios now to discuss these issues further, let's welcome Dr. Mukhtar Muhammad, who is the National Incident Manager of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. Dr. Mukhtar, delighted to have you with us on the program.
Good morning. Thank you.
Okay, let's also welcome Atta Ikaro, who is Head Media and Enlightenment of the FCT Enforcement Task Force on COVID-19. Atta Ikaro, welcome to the program and congratulations on the latest steps on enforcement you have taken in the FCT.
A pleasant moment being here.
All right, and joining us from Lagos via Zoom is Dr. Rita Oladele, I hope I got that correctly, consultant, clinical microbiologist, Lagos University Teaching Hospital, and senior lecturer at the university. It's a pleasure to have you, madam.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm happy to be back on your segment.
All right, thank you. Let's begin with the National Incident Manager, Dr. Mukhtar Mohammed. Give us a national panoramic view of the second wave of the coronavirus. We keep seeing figures. We know that we've shot well above 1,500 on a daily basis consecutively, and the fatalities are also there. But tell us, how does the picture look?
So the picture where we are coming from since the middle of December or towards the end of December, we've seen the numbers rise. And this has been very consistent. On week-by-week basis, we've reported above 10,000 figures. In the past, we were just reporting an average of about 4,000 a week. But now the figures have exceeded that figure. We're reporting between 10 to 15,000. And even a couple of weeks ago, we reported over 18,000 in a week. So that is really a far increase from where we were coming from. And the distribution of the epidemic, has also increased. In the past, we know that the main focus areas are Lagos, FCT, Port Harcourt or River State, and also maybe Kano and Ogun, Oyo. But now we are seeing it, widely distributed in almost all the states. And the only shortcoming that we see is that, when you have low testing, we're not able to pick more. And these numbers, have continued to increase, geometrically, and hence the need for us to intensify these interventions and make sure that we're able to halt the growth of the epidemic.
Well, sometime in the past, we heard that there's a different strain of coronavirus in the UK, but shortly after that, many countries also reported the same strain of coronavirus. And from what we have enumerated, are we beginning to experience as such in Nigeria? Because we also learned that that is more devastating in terms of infection, being highly infectious, and of course more difficult to treat. So, what's the situation in Nigeria?
So, in terms of the new strain, let me just put the background that it is not unusual for viruses to mutate. In fact, it is a constant pattern of viruses to continue to mutate. Even COVID-19, right now there are thousands of variants of the virus. However, what is of concern is when you have a variant that has the potential to either be more pathogenic, that is to infect more people, or more virulent, that is to cause more disease in the individuals. Or you have a new strain that may not be responsive to the vaccines that are already produced. So that is the fear that we have, in the scientific community. Now, talking about the strain in the UK, you recall that we had earlier identified it in Nigeria as far back as October, based on the genetic sequencing that was carried out. Now, that strain has also been demonstrated in a few more cases. Just last week, we it is called the B117. Last week also we got the report that we had about 7 of such strains, have been reported in the country. Now, but as far as we are concerned, this strain that has now been identified, that is the UK variant, it has been shown that it is still about 90% responsive to the current vaccines that are available. And it has not been demonstrated to be actually more virulent in terms of the intensity of disease that it causes. The fear that we have now is the mutant that is the South Africa variant. Now, that is the one that has now been shown not to be, just to be about 50% responsive to the current known vaccines. And that is the one that perhaps, will have a negative impact, on the current program of both containment and also in terms of vaccination.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Mutar. Let's go over to Lagos via Zoom to Dr. Rita Oladile, who's a regular guest senior lecturer at the University of Lagos and consultant clinical microbiologist at LUTH. Dr. Oladile, well, Lagos continues to lead for fairly obvious reasons in terms of the numbers recorded of COVID-19 infections. But what is it that you are seeing now in the second wave? We seem to have had a lull towards the end of last year, and all of a sudden there is panic everywhere now, and fatalities are also rising.
Yes, so I do agree it's a little bit worrisome, especially with the fatality, the short period in which patients seem to deteriorate so fast. And it shows you that one of our worrying concerns is, could we be dealing with a more virulent variant of this organism? Because in the first wave, we didn't have this level of mortality, especially among our healthcare staff. In this wave, they just seem to come down suddenly, and deterioration seems to be fast. Then in our community also, because it also shows the large numbers in Lagos shows you this, gives a reflection of a large community carriage ongoing. So, and I mean, you all know that Lagos is a cosmopolitan city. So the issue is, how do we address this? How do we prevent this spread? We have not fully typed all the variants we have here. We don't know which variant is causing this severity of infection, because the infection this second wave seems to be more severe among some certain groups, and the rate of deterioration seems to be faster. So it is important that we prevent the spread. Our schools have opened. You all know, I saw the, and I must commend the gentleman from Abuja for the great work he's doing in ensuring compliance. We hope we can mirror something like that in Lagos. But the issue is that ensuring compliance of face masks use is not just having a face mask or having a face mask on your face. It's the ability to use it properly. So now we've given them different names. So we call them chin masks because they end up on the chins, some are on the ears. So those are the little nitty-gritty details that we need to address. the National Orientation Agency, a number of NGOs and organizations took the fight and took the education back to the people about COVID-19. And I hope that this same group will take the fight back to the media and all to show proper use of the face masks and hand hygiene. It's not only in a face mask. It's not only in a cloth that you put across your face. The why and the how has to be fully explained. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much indeed. Well, you in Lagos are actually experiencing a very difficult situation considering the population of Lagos and, of course, the kind of businesses people engage in. We will return to you in the course of the conversation, but for now, let's come back to Abuja and speak to the man you actually commended for the job he's doing down here, that's Atta himself. Now, the major concern of Nigerians, especially those residing in the FCT, is non-compliance with the non-pharmaceutical protocol of COVID-19. Just yesterday, two markets were closed in Abuja here because of non-compliance. And I want to ask you, really, if proper attention is paid to other areas in Abuja, you will discover too that many marketplace, business places are not adhering to COVID-19. We have churches, we have people still engaged in marital activities like weddings and the wine carrying and what have you in this city. And when you go there, you can hardly find, in fact, very few people, will be, wearing masks. So what measures are complying to that?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think for us in the FCT, one thing that we do and decides to do the more is to ensure that people actually comply. And not just comply, but comply within the various levels as contained in the presidential executive regulation or guideline, as some will put it, particularly the ones that specify how organizations, how owners of property, how establishment occupier, as the presidential guideline signed, puts them. I think one thing that is germane in what we do, and many thanks to Dr. Mukhtar here and his team that came and met with the FCT Minister, Malam Mohammed Musa Bello, and the minister's team as well, and they actually brought something new in addition to the regulations signed by the president, is that we, on our own part, resolve that as far as COVID-19 enforcement is concerned, there is no place that is not touchable. There is no place at all. No matter how delicate you are, life is very vital. Be it the mosques, be it the churches, be it the shrine, be it marriages, be it markets, be it anywhere. Sometimes these are very volatile areas. We all understand very well. So some persons in some states tend to shy away from these places because, if you go to religious places, you can be termed anti-Christ, anti-Islam. You go to the market, you term you anti-people and all of that. But somebody must save the people from themselves. That is very fundamental and very key here. In terms of the suburb which you raised, the minister of the FCT, when Dr. Mukhtar and his team visited, said the area council chairman should handle the suburbs, while we handle the city. And like what you saw the other time, when some persons faulted the day before yesterday, we went to court, and the court, her lordship, gave a judgment that with this high number of persons gotten from the Wuse market, the UTC market, and the plaza opposite UTC market, the numbers appear too much. On that ground, she sealed up the market. And some said, look, you can't seal up the market. The most popular strategic central market in Abuja cannot be sealed. We said, okay, wait till when the court orders will take effect. It took effect. At the dead of the night, when it took, I think, about 12 a.m. when it started, we sealed the markets and told them it is for your own safety. You must comply. And they raised the point, hunger or COVID. We say both of them will fight both together. So I think the area council chairman have committed that day, Dr. Mukhtar is here, that they will handle the suburbs. While we handle the city, which is also very heavy and very light. Yes, the PTF, the presidential guideline and others did not stop marriages. But what the president is hammering on, which I think is what Dr. Mukhtar is pushing across the states, is do it in line with the COVID-19 protocol. This is the NTA, the largest network in Africa. Look at the distancing, over 2 meters. And it's very encouraging. We commend that. We came in here, somebody checked us. We had to get our hands sanitized. We put on our face masks. These are just the simple thing Mr. President is asking us to do as advised by the health sector, health expert here. And we should do all of this. So the FCT minister is saying, look, the police commissioner, Avalachi Roma, supervises us, and they've given us a clear-cut mandate that go out and ensure that the president's directive is followed to the latter. We got some backlash, some talk, criticism, and all of that, but we are standing and standing tall.
All right, thank you very much, Atayekaru. Well, I mean, there's no question about it, Kirian.
Yeah.
If you recall, at the height of the pandemic, at the height of the lockdown last year, AMAC, which is the Abuja Municipal Area Council, was identified as one of the hotspots for the transmission of the virus. And at that time also, we saw you, we also had you as a guest on Good Morning Nigeria, where you were impounding truckers who were bringing in all kinds of persons into the FCT or seeking to transit through the FCT. We'll come back to you for the remainder of the conversation to make 1 or 2 points. But let's bring in again Dr. Mukhtar Mohammed. What has been the major challenge that the PTF has faced in terms of operationalization? Because we keep hearing the chairman of the PTF, who is the SGF, say that they're not getting full cooperation from states. One of the most notorious states that we have also talked about on Good Morning Nigeria is Kogi. How are you dealing with Kogi? How are you relating with Kogi? Is Kogi testing? Are they just, because the other day they had one mega spreading event where there were no masks and there was no social distancing or whatsoever. Does Kogi have its own health regulations? Does Kogi have its own testing mechanisms, or is having its own, I don't know, what is Kogi in this coronavirus issue?
Thank you very much. So let me start with the challenges of the PTF. As you are aware, the PTF is a coordinating body. It is a multi-sectoral, high-level, all-of-government, organization or committee that, works through the various sectors and also works with the states to make sure that we implement, we respond to this pandemic. So the PTF actually has been engaging the state governors very regularly. Initially, it was ad hoc. They can virtually meet maybe twice in a week. But now, at least, it is more like every 2 weeks now, the PTF meets with the governors. And we even have a special committee, that discusses COVID-19, which is raised by the Governors Forum themselves. So that communication is going on. The implementation or the operation of the response is actually at the state level. The PTF does not implement. The PTF works with the relevant organs of government to make sure that implementation is put in place. All of this, from surveillance to the laboratory testing to risk communication, which is providing information, to security and mass care, all of that is handled by the states. The PTF just facilitates. We develop the framework, we develop the guideline, we develop the recommendations, and we put them onto the governors to make sure that they implement this in their states. It has not been an easy ride, because you recall that we had several challenges initially regarding funds. Now, when we had issues with funds, the federal government sourced funds, and we provided the states with, all the states of the federation benefited from this.
Including Kogi? Including
Kogi. Kogi collected 1 billion from the PTF for COVID, and that money is for COVID. So it is really difficult to understand when you can apply and sign and agree to all the documents that have been provided to collect the money, and then turn back and say that either it does not exist or you don't have it in your state.
I'm not cutting you short. The stand of Kogi started ab initio from the beginning. So how would PTF give 1 billion naira to Kogi State that had a negative stand on coronavirus? Because the man made it very clear from the beginning that Kogi is free. And now you are telling us that Kogi collected over 1 billion naira to fight COVID-19 that the government does not believe in. So what is the rationale?
So, government will not come out and be discussing everything in the public. And as far as we're concerned, we worked through the Governors Forum, and we got assurances that Kogi was on board. Kogi signed all the documents that all the other states signed. They had an implementation plan. They submitted their request, and it was based on that condition that the Federal Ministry of Finance released that money to Kogi State. So that money is for COVID-19. If anyone says they don't believe in COVID or they don't have COVID, perhaps maybe they should return the money because they don't need it. But the reality is, Kogi is still part of Nigeria. And people in Kogi, need to be taken care of the way we take care of people in other parts of the country. This epidemic is true. People from Kogi have died from COVID epidemic. We know. They come to the FCT, they test, and they have been hospitalized. And these are high-profile people from the state. We know. Everybody knows.
Please repeat what you just said now. Because we keep hearing that, no, there are no fatalities in Kogi with regard to COVID-19. Kogi is contiguous with the Federal Capital Territory. Just repeat what you just said now about people coming in from Kogi to the FCT to get treatment or whatever, and then some of them, of course.
There is no point, mentioning names, but we've had not less than 5 high-profile figures from Kogi who got infected with the COVID-19, and some of them even died from it. So it is not, we know it, and it is in the record. The hospitals can provide the records. We've also tested young people who are in the NYSC camp now. So we had people, what we did was just analyze the data by state of origin. And we saw that there are people from Kogi who are in other camps, maybe in Kaduna or Maiduguri or here in the FCT, who tested positive to COVID-19. So we cannot continue to deny. Science is not something that you can just wish away, by your speeches. You have to provide evidence and you have to provide the facts. COVID-19 is real, and it is in every part of the country, and including Kogi State. We may wish to deny, somebody can wish to deny the existence of COVID-19, but that is just a wishful thinking. And I think the people need to be taken care of. We have to protect the citizens, of Kogi State. We have to protect their families. We have to protect the communities by ensuring that we provide testing, we make it available, and making sure that we have isolation centers in the states where when people are sick, they can be taken care of. The medical community very much knows about this, but perhaps they are under political pressure not to succumb and do the right thing.
All right, thank you. Let's return to Lagos, where we have Dr. Rita Oladele. Can you tell us how challenging, is it to for the enforcement of safety protocols in Lagos? We know schools have opened, and Lagos being a mega city, we have so many huge markets in the place, and there are very many organizations too, churches and mosques also scattered all over Lagos. How challenging is it to enforce the safety protocol in Lagos at this moment?
Thank you. That's so, like the gentleman speaker just said, we believe in science. So we decided to do, my CMD of my hospital, Professor Chris Bode, decided to do a survey, small survey in Lutz, to ensure if we have compliance in Lutz. So we have notices at the gates to say, don't come in without your face masks. We have security men that are meant to ensure that. And we surveyed within the hospital, both patients, staff, and visitors, everybody. And compliance inside Lutz, a health facility, was poor. Overall compliance was about 40-something%. So you can imagine if inside an institution where there are people at the gates to enforce it, people will come in. You can't come in without a face mask. But the minute they get in, they don't put it under their chin. They put it hanging from one ear. They put it over their mouth and leave the nose open. So at the end of the day, when you look at proper face mask adherence, because it's not just possessing the matter of putting it over your face, it's wearing it properly. You will see that it's very poor. So if in a hospital setting, where that's a small community, where that could be enforced, we're having that challenge. You can imagine what in the larger society is. You go into the markets, Lagos market, we are bumper to bumper, everybody speaking into each other's face, and there's no compliance. There's no compliance. Even with the PTF pushing the president to put this, gazette this and make it law, we still have issues with compliance. The Lagos state government has sent out, they've mobilized into the market, into the parks to drive compliance. but we have a very large population in Lagos. That's why I believe that education is key. Today, when I was coming to work, I parked my car and I watched children going to school. All of them had face masks. None of them wearing it properly. So I stopped groups and I would ask them, I said, do you know COVID-19? Oh, yes, they know COVID-19. Why you not wearing your face mask properly? And they're looking at me. And I told them, I said, put it on properly. And I showed them how to put it on properly. Then I told them, I said, you are young. You might get the infection, we won't know. Or you just have, but do you want to kill your parents? They said no. I said, but when you do this, you go out and you bring it back home. Your parents are not as young as you. They are not as strong as you. You can kill your parents. Their eyes were wide open. Okay? And that set when. And I said, when you get to school, tell your classmates, anybody you see not wearing face mask properly, ask, do you want to kill your parents? And they said, okay. And I had to do this with groups of set of children that walked through College of Medicine on their way to school. So the how and the why, we need to push that education out. Going just to arrest people, I don't think punitive measures will work for very short duration. I think we need to drive the education. Do we need signages? Do we need, like you're having this program, most of the elites that have time to sit down and watch television, I mean, log on to NTA, they all know this, what we are discussing. We have taught, they've read about face masks, proper wearing of it. But the man in the community that has been out there since 5:30 a.m. hustling, just know that they said face masks and he hangs it from one ear. So the education is key. I mean, I know NTA has done a lot, but a little bit more, Oliver can go a little further. Thank you.
Dr. Rita Oladile, we'd like to thank you for your perspective there. Some of the steps you've taken this morning are pretty useful. Atai Karo, there are some takeaways from what Rita Oladile said. Very quickly, for the FCT, how would this apply?
I think we are going on here. We believe, from my own point of view, I believe the education, we've gone very far. Sadly, we have very horrible opponents, those who don't believe, those who are somewhat of antagonists, who can stay and tell you that there's no COVID. We talk about the one you just raised, which is also worrisome. The fact that a governor can spend his time, even go on a paid program and say there is no COVID, that is very puncturing. Some prominent clerics have come on air to say there is no COVID. We even go to those churches, we found out that more than half don't wear. We have to enforce compliance very strongly here. So if religious leaders had come up who are controllers of millions, telling them that they are speaking from God, the Creator, what can you do? Everybody is aware that there is COVID. Everyone, enlightenment is totally gone across. But the issue is that most of the messages have been punctured by either political elite who are seeking populist idea or religious leaders who don't believe in it. So I think from our own point of view, we would be enforcing compliance, we would be driving it through and telling people that we will save you from yourself.
All right, all right. Thank you very much indeed. Of course, we appreciate your efforts and, of course, the efforts of others who are working, in line with the safety protocols put in place by government. Now, at this point, we have to conclude this edition of the program and call it a day. Can you just do one or two words in 5 seconds before we conclude?
Okay, so let me say we discuss about states maybe that are not working, but let us also appreciate the other state governors who are working very hard. I was very much fascinated to see Governor Fayemi as chairman of the Governors Forum hold a meeting that passed midnight with other governors. And we discuss this, like I mentioned, every 2 weeks. Some of the governors are really very passionate and they work hard and they provide resources in their states.
We hope that monies will not be given to states that are not complying with this, because this is very important. You can't give Kogi $1 million, the 1 million naira when he's not 1 billion naira when he's not interested in COVID-19. Perhaps they have enough money to deal with that, back home. So that's just by the way. We want to appreciate you for coming here this morning. Dr. Mukhtar Mohammed, National Incident Manager, Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. And of course, our own Atai Haro, Head Media and Enlightenment, FCT Enforcement Task Force on COVID-19. Not forgetting Dr. Rita Oladile, Consultant Clinical Microbiologist, Lagos University Teaching Hospital, and Senior Lecturer at the University of Lagos. Also appreciate